Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is an educational channel and we tend to present material that is on the level of theories of everything, systems of theory, all-encompassing theories that you can apply to any subject and that you probably haven't heard of because they're so obscure that they don't merit normal conversation. But I think that they're very important, and so I'm trying to spread the word. This is the 244th video that we've done on the reciprocal system of theory. And the reciprocal system of theory is a system of theory that was first derived by Dewey B. Larson. Mr. Larson lived from 1898 until 1990, started working out his theory way back around 1930, kept at it for the remaining 60 years of his life, wrote a lot of great books on astrophysics and physics and chemistry and also economics, and wrote a lot of articles, wrote some stuff on metaphysics, and left a legacy, at least some people who gave a crap and attempted to elaborate on his theory, to extend it into other areas, and to revise some of the maybe incorrect applications that Larson made of his theory. The basic idea behind the reciprocal system is that we live in a universe of motion. The universe is made out of motion. Motion, not matter, not energy. And motion, for Larson, was the relationship between space and time. Motion is basically a fraction or a ratio, and time or space is the numerator, and space or time is the denominator. All kinds of motions can be expressed in terms exclusively of space and time. And that includes all of these different scientific quantities that have their MKS units. They also have their time-space units, such as speed and acceleration and force and energy and matter and pressure and viscosity and fluidity and electric current and electric charge and capacitance and magnetic flux. And all of these different things are strictly fractions of space over time or time over space. Time over space comes in multiple dimensions. That's what Larson calls coordinate time and coordinate space. And space and time also have their scalar aspects, meaning that they have a magnitude, motions that have a magnitude but have no direction. We see them as having only a magnitude with no direction. They really have all directions, but we can't resolve all of them at once, and so we see the big picture as just a net motion of all of them kind of put together. And that is the motion around a clock time and clock space. The real motion is, you take a balloon and a magic marker, you put a bunch of dots on the balloon, you blow up the balloon, all the dots are moving away from each other, but in no particular direction, or really in all directions. But we see that we only really can resolve the net motion of that, which is the motion around a plane, like a clock. That's what Larson calls clock time and clock space. The clock is always getting later and later and later. And with space, it is that the things are getting farther and farther and farther apart. Then space and time also come in only discrete units. There is a minimum unit of space and a minimum unit of time. And if you have less than one unit, then you don't have that space or time. Everything is made out of time or space, so it's got to be one or the other. So if you don't have any space, then you only have time. Larson calls that the time region. That's less than one unit of space. And he also calls it the space region when you have less than one unit of time. When you have one unit of space in one unit of time, that is the speed of light. 1 over 1 equals 1. Larson calls that unit speed. Unit speed, or the speed of light, is the boundary between what Larson calls the material sector and the cosmic sector. In the cosmic sector, everything is moving faster than the speed of light, completely obliterating the rules of Einstein that says that nothing moves faster than the speed of light. Einstein was really only referring to the material sector, where everything does move slower than the speed of light. And this is the sector of the universe that we're comfortable with, that we make our observations and measurements, and that we have, knowledge of. But we can extrapolate our knowledge of the material sector to the cosmic sector simply by reversing the roles of space and time. And so what we really have is we have 4 different main regions of the universe. We have the material sector, moving slower than the speed of light. And within the material sector, we have the time region, which is within 1 unit of space inside that material sector. And then over on the cosmic sector, we have the space region, everything that is within 1 unit of time. So that's kind of how it's set up. You can really use the Taoist Dajitu, or however you pronounce that, the yin-yang symbol, as a kind of a visual of that, with the the wave-like line between them as the speed of light, and the little dots on either side as the time region and space region, respectively. Oh, so that's where Larson didn't include all that Taoism in there, but that's basically what he came up with his first postulates in the 1950s. And then he took his postulates and he deduced an entire theoretical universe from the postulates. If this is true, then this is true. And if this is true, then this is true. And then he, compared what he had come up with what the legacy scientists have come up with through their observations and measurements. Unfortunately, he got off track in some ways, because the legacy scientists weren't actually, coming up with theories through their observations and measurements. Sometimes they were just making stuff up. Sometimes they were just covering stuff up. And that really, especially, the never a straight answer people have kind of waylaid his theory of astronomy in many ways. Now, Larson passed away in 1990, but he had many different followers. Not many, probably not even in the triple digits, but in the double digits. And some of these people have done some great work in refining his theory, modernizing it, adding in other theories of everything that were running parallel, such as Taoism and projective geometry. And one of them, probably the foremost among them, or one of the 2 foremost among them, is Dr. Bruce Perret, who also passed away back in 2020. But he wrote many great articles and books as well, and also, had a few message boards on the web. One's called Antiquitas, one was called Conscious Hugs, and another one was just RS2, Reciprocal System 2, and put a lot of work out on there. a lot of synthesizing work. He also wrote several articles under the name Daniel Phoenix 3, and these are called the Daniel Papers. They're a little bit more speculative and honestly a little bit more interesting. And we are about to start part 3 of his anthropology series on the hidden origins of Homo sapiens. So the last 19 or so videos have been the first 2 parts of this series. And so this third part is called Homo sapiens ethicus, life, death, reincarnation, and ascension. Introduction. In order to understand how the created Cro-Magnon man differs from other evolved life on our world, an investigation into the structure of life itself is a necessary prerequisite. Once the natural norm is defined, deviations from that norm can be investigated and consequences determined. This paper will cover 2 basic concepts as energetic consequences, life and death, along with the evolution of those processes, reincarnation and ascension. Life as a natural consequence of the postulates of the reciprocal system is covered in detail by Dewey Larson in his book, Beyond Space and Time. And we went over that entire book in earlier videos for about maybe 100 videos. So just go back in the archives and start listening to that. In hopes of defining the basic pattern of what causes natural death and what happens during and after the death of the physical body, the concepts of death, reincarnation, and ascension are extrapolated from the core concepts of cultural mythology and theology, correlated to corresponding concepts in a framework of a universe of motion. This information can then be extrapolated to see where mankind as a species is headed. The pretext of this paper, based on the concepts proposed in Geochronology, that's paper 1, and New World Religion, which was paper 2 that we just finished, is that Cro-Magnon man, from which modern man is a direct descendant, is a hybrid of the evolving life on the planet plus an extraterrestrial or divine, quote, divine with a small d, influence that was introduced by a species collectively referred to as the SMs that colonized the planet in ancient times, creating the Mu and Atlantean epochs. The progenitors of this hybrid species of man are commonly referred to as the biblical Adam and Eve. So this hybrid approach is a mix between Darwinian views and theological ones. Both are correct. Man was created and is now evolving on his own as a distinct species. Terminology is going to be difficult as many of the words have subjective meanings to the reader. To help alleviate this difficulty, the terms will be defined prior to being used, so context can be maintained. There will be those that disagree with the choice of specific words, but these are what we've been using in the scientific underground for 30 years and have held up well. It is the concept being related that is important, not the word used to express it. There will also be those who vehemently oppose Larson's concept of consciousness being a consequence of life rather than matter being a consequence of consciousness. I ask that you suspend disbelief for the moment, as it is a reciprocal relation. Asking what came first is like asking if the inside or outside of a box came first. Neither did. Once you have a box, you've got an inside and an outside. The same situation exists with consciousness. It's all a matter of perspective. Okay, now this section is called life. To the best of my knowledge, Dewey Larson has the only theory, the reciprocal system, that deduces both life and ethical consciousness as a natural consequence of its postulates. What Larson proposed in his book Beyond Space and Time is that life is essentially a stable combination of matter and antimatter. Most physicists will tell you that when matter and antimatter meet, they cancel each other out, and you get an explosive result. What Larson found was that matter and antimatter can also meet out of phase with each other, such that they form a stable, more complex structure, the living cell. Still an explosion, but a constructive explosion of life, rather than a destructive explosion of radiation. Because of this mix of material and cosmic or antimatter motions, the living cells operate primarily in the intermediate speed range, analogous to the processes in stars. But due to this stable balance, the process is at much lower temperatures. To quote Delenn from Babylon 5, we are star stuff, literally. This unique understanding of the living structure as an aggregate of a physical spatial body and an invisible temporal body allows an investigation into that other realm, the cosmic half of life that philosophers and spiritualists have identified as the soul or mind, as in the conventional New Age concept of body, mind, spirit. Whereas soul and mind have many connotations, the medieval Latin term anima will be used as commonly used by psychologists. Anima will be used to refer to this soul half of the living organism, the unobserved presence in three-dimensional time. According to the reciprocal system, the physical universe consists of two sectors of expression, existing 90 degrees out of phase, each the antithesis of the other, two perspectives of scalar motion. 1. The material sector, matter. 3 coordinate dimensions of space with 1 dimension of clock time or duration. This is the observable, measurable sector of our everyday experience, known to the 19th and early 20th century researchers as ponderable matter. And then 2, cosmic sector or antimatter, 3 coordinate dimensions of time with 1 dimension of clock space or distance. This is the origin of etheric phenomena, imponderable matter, and is not directly observable nor measurable from space. We can indirectly measure how time changes space by observing how material structures change when influenced by temporal ones. However, when confronted with certain observed phenomena such as ethical behavior and physical psychic ability, Larson found that the two sectors of his physical universe did not supply sufficient relationships to account for these features, and he added a third non-physical sector to hold all the evidence and observations that were yet to be sorted out and placed into the theoretical framework of the reciprocal system. He called this third sector the ethical sector, and the structures created within it control units. Unfortunately, Larson died of old age before completing this study. Just looking into some of the footnotes here. I'm gonna read this footnote 5. Antimatter in the reciprocal system is called cosmic matter and is technically conjugate matter, composed of atomic rotations in space placed in a three-dimensional temporal coordinate system using clock space as a measurement of change. Larson refers to it as inverse matter, but it was pointed out by Professor KVK Nehru that the inversion must actually be a conjugate to preserve dimensional relationships. For example, the inverse of material force, which is time over space to the second power, is space to the second power over time, which is incorrect. Cosmic force has the dimensions of space over time to the second power, not space to the second power over time. The aspects of space and time invert, but the dimensional relation in the numerator and the denominator stay the same, making it a conjugate, not an inverse. Okay, now he has a little chart here. Larson's concept of sectors also map to the esoteric concepts of ontological planes of existence. So, for Larson, sector 1 is the material sector. Sector 2 is the cosmic sector. And then sector 3 is the ethical sector. Now, in the esoteric planes of existence, we have the physical for the material sector, we have the astral for the cosmic sector, and we have the causal for the ethical sector, sector 3. Note that Larson's investigation ended with his third ethical sector because of his death. This does not imply that there are not additional sectors nor levels of existence waiting to be unraveled as natural consequences of the reciprocal system. So Perret is basically saying that Larson kind of lumped everything into sector 3 or the ethical sector, but there are delineations within sector 3 that Larson didn't have time to sort out because he died before that happened. Now, that may be true, but the evidence is limited for that, as if you read Beyond Space and Time, Larson's final book that came out after he died, he doesn't mention any gradations within the ethical sector as far as I know. I might have to go back and look at that again. You might want to listen to my videos and hear if you find any hint of that. But, I think Perret is kind of just looking for an excuse to extrapolate his own theories onto this, onto Larson's structure, which is fine. But I'm just pointing it out. Okay, well, I think we will stop there, and tomorrow we will start up with the section called the levels of existence. And he's going to get into all kinds of different terminologies and gradations of different, I think he's really going to take other concepts, other theories of everything, and kind of try to place them into the structure that Larson put together. So not only just this esoteric, body, and then astral body and causal body, but other things as well. Okay, well, we'll check it out tomorrow when we come back. But thanks for tuning in today, and have a great day.